Folks, I have something for you. Tommy, my friend. By the way, hi! We're social distancing. I believe that the upcoming 392 Jeep Wrangler for 2021-22 will be the best Jeep Wrangler ever.
No, you're wrong, Nathan, because there is one model in the Wrangler lineup that I think is going to sweep the floor.
I guess you're referring to the Renegade?
No, Nathan, you know how much I love the little Renegade. I'm referring to the new Wrangler 4xe, which is a plug-in hybrid equipped Wrangler. And this is a very exciting time, right? Because they've officially announced the Wrangler 4xe, and then a couple months ago, they showed a concept of a Wrangler called the 392. Now, they said that's a concept. However, we have seen pictures of this vehicle testing, and we are quite sure it's going to come into production, because even one of the truck drivers at the Toledo assembly line sent us an email and said, well, yeah, they're building them.
The numbers are really impressive. I mean, Tommy, 450 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque. Everything about this vehicle is a built-up Wrangler, okay? Because you have 37-inch tires, you have Dana 44s front and rear. All the numbers in terms of approach, breakover, and departure are better than the Wrangler Rubicon. So it is going to be, when it comes out, hopefully, the best Wrangler ever. And you're already wrong about this electric thing that you're talking about being awesome.
All right, well, hear me out. So you hear the word hybrid, right? And the first vehicle that comes to mind is the Prius. And there is nothing cool about a Prius. I love the Prius, it's a great car, Toyota, but there's nothing really off-roady or all that cool about it. It's got kind of a stigma, but these latest crop of plug-in hybrids, I'm talking RAV4 Prime, and especially this 4xe, don't think of them as hybrids to get efficiency. Think of them as hybrids to get crazy performance. So some of the stats on the Wrangler 4xe, 375 horsepower, 470 pound-feet of torque. So this hybrid model makes more torque than the 392 concept.
Yeah, okay, it does. But at the same time, we are talking about a level of complexity that is so much higher than the 392. Think about it. You have a gas engine and an electric motor. You have two clutches. You have all of this extra stuff in order to make this thing happen. Plus, it has to be either plugged in or, run as a regular gas engine. The 392 is good old-fashioned big fat V8 just stuck in there, and we already know it's a relatively reliable power source.
Yeah, it is a very complicated system. So it combines a 2-liter turbocharged engine, a 17.3 kilowatt-hour battery. It's got a motor generator in the front of the engine. It's got a motor generator in the transmission. It all has to work together in order for it to operate. But they're saying 0 to 60 in the 6-second range, which is super impressive. It can run on EV alone, electricity alone, for 25 miles. It's got instant torque. So one thing that Wrangler 392 is going to struggle with, especially when you bring it up to, 10,000 feet of elevation where some of our trails are, you're going to lose a lot of horsepower. You don't lose any power with electricity when you bring it up to elevation. So up here, when you hit that pedal, you're not only going to get that instant burst of torque from the electric motor, which can make all of its torque at 0 RPM, but you're also going to get quiet, seamless operation.
Now, in order to build this vehicle, they had to do a couple things, including add batteries, right?
Yes.
So there's batteries, a sealed unit, I believe, that sits underneath the rear seat.
It's 500 pounds heavier.
500 pounds heavier. Now, we don't know how much heavier the 392 is over the regular, let's say, the V6, the Pentastar, but I don't think it's 500 pounds heavier.
I'm going to be curious to see, because that's a big engine. 6.4 liters of displacement is a lot of cylinder block. And the other thing, too, is all that weight is going to be at the front of the vehicle. So it's all going to be up there by the front axle. At least on the 4xe, the plug-in hybrid, you've got the engine in the front, but then you've got the majority of the weight, which is going to be the battery. That's going to be a big, heavy load in the rear. So in theory, you're going to have pretty decent weight distribution. Now, let's talk about the capability, because even though you've got some 400 volts of power being sucked through a system
Yeah.
in the plug-in hybrid. They say you still will have 30 inches of water fording capability.
So far, the numbers that have been made public for the 392 is 34 inches of water fording.
Oh my goodness.
That it probably has to do with the 37-inch tires too.
Yeah.
That, those are just huge. And then on top of that, you have a 51.6 degree approach angle, 29.5 degree breakover, and 40.1 degree departure angle, all of which are better than the regular Wrangler Rubicon. However, I will say this. There is something to be said about sneaking up on people using battery power, because you're not going to be able to sneak up on anybody with a big thumping 396 under the hood.
Now the concept is lifted, right? But I have a
392.
feeling that the production one is also going to be pretty similar.
Yeah.
I have a feeling if they come out with this 392, it's going to be on larger than 33-inch tires, which you'll find on the Rubicon.
I think the 37s might make it to production, and one of the reasons why is the fact that the Ford Bronco has A, B, and C. This is going to have higher levels so it can compete. And the one thing that the Bronco doesn't have is a plug-in hybrid, not yet at least. So I think Jeep is trying to beat them to the punch, because they do have the technology to build that vehicle as well, if they wanted to.
Now, cost is going to be a big question. And we don't know pricing in either of them. How much more do you think the 4xe is going to be than a standard V6 powered Wrangler?
I think $10,000 more.
$10,000.
And I think that the 392 will be about $15,000 to $20,000 more.
Wow, that's a big jump.
But do you disagree?
Yeah, I'm thinking that the plug-in hybrid is going to be $6,000 over a Pentastar, and I think that the V8 is going to be about $10,000. So I do think we're going to start seeing a $75,000 Wrangler when you get it with the 392. So cost is going to be definitely a factor. But another factor is cost to run the vehicle, because 25 miles of range, admittedly not a lot on the plug-in hybrid. However, for a lot of you guys out there, you could in theory plug the vehicle in overnight while you're sleeping, wake up in the morning with a full charge, drive to work, and in some cases even drive home without ever using a single lick of gasoline. And the other cool thing too is it's a plug-in hybrid, so you don't have to fill it up with electricity. And I was talking to the Jeep engineer, even if that high voltage battery dies, it never fully dies, so you're never completely out of power. It always has a reserve. So even if you're just cruising around on gasoline, quote unquote only, or hybrid vehicle mode only, you plant that throttle with a dead battery, and it's still going to accelerate just like it would if that battery was full.
Which is really awesome. Once again, too much tech, because big fat V8, all you have to worry about is you put your foot down, and the accelerator is actually just connected to fuel injection, right? There's nothing in between that has to really think about, hey, the battery, well, okay, it's almost dead, but we can still go. This is just a gas engine, and the reason why I think this thing will be absolutely phenomenal has nothing to do with your opinion or my opinion. It has to do with the fact that people love horsepower.
They do.
People love V8s. People have been begging Jeep to put a big fat V8 in their vehicles for a long time, specifically the Wrangler. And if Jeep actually went one step further and put a Hellcat engine in it, they should. They should. You might as well. Why not at this
It's a public
point?
safety hazard, Nathan.
Then people would die. We were actually talking about this before we started shooting, and I think we would call it the Widowmaker, because you guys would just be flipping them left and right, just flying off of rocks. But how cool would it be? How cool would that be? Nonetheless, this 392, yes, it would lose a little bit of power up here, but 450 horsepower in a Jeep? Yeah, that is pretty impressive. And it's entirely possible that it might put out even more power and more torque when hopefully production begins.
I do think there is something cool too that we have to talk about in terms of capability. When you're out on the trail, you can run the vehicle in EV mode, in 4 high, 4 low, anything. So in theory, you could be cruising down the Rubicon, you could be cruising down Hell's Revenge in Moab in 4 low EV mode and have perfect throttle modulation. So you're not going to have to wait for revs to build. There's going to be no torque converter to build up. You simply just gently apply a throttle, and that electric system's going to be ready to go. And you're just going to be able to perfectly position the vehicle on the rock or on the ledge. That's going to be pretty cool. And you can there's even a save mode. So if you want, you could drive to the trail on gasoline and then have a full battery so you can cruise down the trail just silent operation. I am a little worried, I think you're right, about the amount of complexity in this.
Exactly.
There's a huge, just like a mind-boggling amount of just sensors and systems that have to work properly, or you're not going to be going very far.
No. And here's another question, Tommy. Why not hook this system up to the diesel? I'm willing to bet it would fit. And here's the thing. If you did have it with the diesel, wouldn't you have that much more of an efficient vehicle?
Nathan, there would be negative payload if you hooked it up to the diesel.
Okay, be a little heavier. True. But man, the torque would be just phenomenal.
Yeah.
See? So you guys write Jeep and ask them to do that. At least put this system in the Gladiator with the diesel. That would be, well, if we ever see a Gladiator diesel.
Talk about backflips, right? I mean, oh my God. Plant that thing. You're gonna
All that torque. Can you imagine 600 foot-pounds of torque or something
fall
like
off the axles? No, I mean, the reason I'm excited about the 4xe is because I do think electricity is the future in a lot of ways. If you've ever, I'm not particularly into high-performance vehicles, but even as an off-roader, if you have an opportunity to drive any new Tesla, be it a Model S or Model 3 or Model X, it's just addicting. Like, you just hit the, I can't say gas, hit the throttle, and you'll just be amazed by how fast even the slowest models will get you down the road. And I think when you start applying that philosophy toward the off-road world, you're going to not only see much more efficient vehicles, but much higher performance vehicles, and potentially, in the long run, much more affordable vehicles if, like you said, they can get the complexity right.
Complexity right now. I did do a video, Tommy, talking about this powertrain and putting it into other FCA products because potentially they could electrify almost half their fleet if they were to use this similar type of technology throughout. I mean, think about it. How many rear drive vehicles does FCA have?
Oh my God.
Tons.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things out there. I do agree with you about the future being electric. I mean, whether we like it or not, that's how you get your efficiency. The good news here is that if they start selling these vehicles, and if a lot of you guys do buy the 4xe, then with their CAFE numbers, they'd be able to sell more 392s, and more people would be happy.
I think the last V8 in an open-top Jeep was like the CJ5 in like the early 80s.
That was the AMC engine.
AMC. Yep.
Well, the thing is that, how many people modify their Jeeps and put V8s in them? Yeah. There's so many, and we've driven a few of those. Some of them have been remarkably dangerous. So hopefully they got it right, and hopefully they actually will do it. It looks like it's production ready, and we'll probably hear a lot more about this vehicle soon. And as for the 4xe, I am actually really looking forward to driving one of these off-road. I want to see if it's as good as you say it is.
Last point before we close up too, I was talking to the head of powertrain for the 4xe and electrification for FCA yesterday, and there are two things I had a question about with the Wrangler plug-in. First of all was charging time. So it has a 7.2 kilowatt charger, so it'll take a couple of hours on a level 2 240 volt charger.
Right, like the one we have.
To fill it up, yep. I asked about DC fast charging, and he said stay tuned. And then I asked about the battery. I said, is there going to be a technology in the future where you can access that battery like at a campground with a 240 volt system?
Yeah,
so he said, stay tuned for that as well.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, the long range older Nissan Leaf had a 30 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah.
And that was for over 100 miles of range.
Yeah.
And that was their upgrade. They had like a 24 volt before then. So this is only a little bit less than what powered a full electric car that got you, quite a distance. And that is in a vehicle that has a gas engine in it as well.
Our smart car, our electric smart car, has the exact same battery size, and once again, that is completely electric. That can go about like 70 miles. So obviously the Wrangler is pretty brick-like. It's not going to be...
And a little heavier.
And a little heavier than
like 3 times the amount of weight, I would say.
Well, let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm willing to bet you're going to agree with Nathan on this one.
392.
But check out tflcar.com for the latest and greatest in new car and new off-road reviews.
See you guys.